Hi, this is Kevin with Advanced Leather Solutions. With me today is Jason Murray, our senior technician. And Jason's going to be talking about a problem that we're seeing more and more. And that is problems associated with new leather that is coming onto the market called Bicast. Now this is a cushion that represents the kinds of problems that we typically see. You can see we have two holes that have been created in the leather. And what we want to do first is talk a little bit about this type of material before we actually talk about how we resolve the problems on it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason to give us a description of what Bicast is all about.
Well, Bicast is essentially a leather substrate that has had a urethane film applied to the surface. So what you see here and what you feel when your hand comes in contact with it, you're not feeling the leather per se, you're feeling the coating that's been bonded to it. This particular Bicast is a split hide, which is basically when a hide is cut laterally, they split off the top of the epidermis, which is used in other applications, and then you're left with the lower cut, which is essentially a suede on both sides. One of the problems with this cut of leather is that these are the newer fibers. The fiber bundles are not as tightly joined as the top cut, and what happens is any flaw in the leather, like a scar, range scar, or something like that, when the epidermis heals, there's still a fault line in that lower cut. And so what's happening here is these are areas where there were fault lines in the lower cut in the split, and then they laminated the film over it, but that didn't resolve the basic lack of integrity in the fibers here. You see how easily that tears. Leather's not supposed to tear like that. So some other issues here is that these have already represented themselves, but what I can see here, let me pull this apart, that's a fault line right there, and there's a significant number of those all over the piece. There's a couple here too. So essentially this entire piece of leather is bad. You got sections here where the film has delaminated from the leather underneath. You can see if we torque that, how it moves differently than areas where it is bonded, and that's true in all of these sections here. Is the camera picking that up?
Barely, but I get the point.
Okay.
I can see the delamination.
Right. So out of the box, a repair on this type of leather is a stopgap measure at best. We're going to go ahead and do our best with it, but I don't project that this piece would last a very long time.
So the bottom line of any kind of a repair on leather is a function of the integrity of the material itself. In this particular case, we have a problematic material that tears very easily, lacks integrity. So when we do a repair on this, there's a very high likelihood that the tear is going to continue down the fault line, or it's going to come apart someplace else on the piece.
That's true. This weak area continues along in here, and you can see it is starting to split.
Yes, I see that. Well, okay, so the next segment of the video is going to show us how we actually do a repair on this, but it's also important that the client understand that these repairs cannot be guaranteed for any length of time simply because the material we're working with is so weak.
Yeah, you know, what's really, disheartening about this material is that, okay, this is a split hide version of Bicast, but you actually have a actual lower quality form of Bicast where they actually take leather fibers and encase them in a resin, so it's not even a true leather, it's like a leather composite, and then they put this film over the top.
So it's sort of like the equivalent of press wood would be to real wood.
Exactly, right.
Okay. Well, good. Okay, thanks, Jason. We'll take it to the next level when we're doing the repair.
All right.
Well, now we're to the next phase in the process of doing a repair on this Bicast leather, and what I want to do is just take a moment and talk about the leather once again. If you'll notice, we have multiple colors going on here. We've actually taken the cushion casing and turned it inside out, so we're looking at the inside of the leather. And notice that the color up here is completely different than the color here, which again is different once again than here or over here. So what we have then is essentially leather scraps. These leather scraps have been combined with this urethane coating on the surface, which you can clearly see here. So the underlying color of the leather doesn't really matter because they're taking leather scraps and assembling them in such a way that allows to have a single color on the surface, which is this urethane-based coating that is the primary coating for any Bicast leather. So with that, we also can see where the damage is. There's the hole here, there's another hole here, and what we're going to do is we're going to support the inside of this leather using what we call a subpatch material. So take it away, Jason.
Alright, and some of these areas here, these light colored spots, those are also areas that would eventually split. Those are weak spots. When I torque it back and forth, the fibers move much more freely inside that, which means it denotes that it's a poor bond there between the fibers. So in the interest of, because the faults are so widespread, I'm just going to go ahead and subpatch this entire panel. It's going to give the customer the best chance for longevity, and also it'll act as a backer for the cosmetic repairs I do on the other side. And so what we'll be using is organza. It's pretty commonly available at a fabric store. It's a very tough fabric. You can really crank on it, but it's nice and flexible, so it makes an ideal subpatch. Basically what I'm going to do is just lay it on, position it. I can trim the edges as necessary. I'm not, obviously not trying to get a mirror image of the panel, but and now what I'm using here is a foam brush, and this is low VOC contact cement, or non-flammable contact cement, and it's also commonly available at hardware stores. So a structural repair like this is something that any consumer could do in their home. If you've purchased Bicast and you can access the back side of it, and not all furniture is made with zipper access, but some of it is, and if you wanted to structurally repair your damaged piece, this is a method by which you could do that. I'm just putting the adhesive goes right through the organza and right into the suede.
And the reason, once again, why you're doing the entire backside of the leather?
There are just so many weak spots in this particular panel, and it's a load-bearing panel. It's the top of the seat cushion. It's constantly under stress and under a load, so we're just going to go ahead and do everything. And so once I get this all the way to the